to be a part of this. I give honor to your pastor and his wife, my dear friends, Pastor and Sister Jordan Copeland. Love them very much. And of course, your bishop and his wife, also my dear friends. What a blessing your leadership and your church has been to Pentecost. Just thought I would share a few thoughts with you about the story of Joseph. Joseph, we get 13 chapters that detail the story of Joseph. Joseph is an incredible person in the Bible. His ability to go through trials and still keep his eye on the will of God and not get sidetracked when he would have had justification to get sidetracked and to get into squabbles is absolutely incredible. You know the story of Joseph. He gets a dream and God begins to deal with him about areas that God's going to bring him to. That at some point, Joseph, you're going to come to a place where your family and others are going to actually be bowing down in front of you. God's going to position you into an authoritative leadership that is going to bring others together in and acknowledge even those that are older than you in your family, even those that perhaps should have had the opportunity. God's going to take you, Joseph, and through his dreams and put you in a place where even your whole family is looking to you, dependent on you. So Joseph sees this as a young man, and as any young man with ambition, he makes the mistake of telling his family and his brothers. Now, I assume his spirit was pure in doing it, but I know for me, I would have probably been like, hey, jokers, y'all are all going to be bowing to me, according to what God's saying. But we read that his family doesn't take it very well. Even his father got a little upset about it, even though he marked it. He said, I'm curious as to how this is going to pan out. So on and so forth, they continue to go forward, and of course the brothers take him, they sell him into slavery, throw him in the pit, sell him into slavery. He goes into Potiphar's house. Potiphar puts him in charge of everything because he finds out that Joseph's character and spirit, he's never seen a slave have such good spirit. And he puts him in charge of his whole house to where Potiphar doesn't even know what's happening. Joseph is in charge of everything. And we know the story there that Potiphar's wife has access to everything in the house except for Joseph and tries to force him. Joseph denies. He has to run. The coat's left. He's incorrectly blamed, and now he's in prison. And this is where I want to focus. Because remember, Joseph is supposed to be in a position of power. Joseph is supposed to be in a position of authority. Joseph is supposed to be in a place where other people are bowing down to him. And at the moment, he is in the prison. Now, this is where sometimes people with a calling can get messed up. Is because you know where you're supposed to be at some point. You know what you feel that God has put on you. But right now, you're in a prison and you're not in that place of authority. This is where people can get frustrated, get bitter, let their spirit get messed up. I shouldn't be here. I should be on the throne. I shouldn't be opening the door. I should be on the platform. I shouldn't be sweeping the hall. I should be in charge of this. Well, you may get there one day. But what you need to do is ask God, if I'm in a prison right now, what do you have me here for? Because the Bible says this interesting statement. Joseph was unlike any other prisoner. He didn't let his current position, though he was not yet where he knew God called him to be, he didn't let his current situation cause him to become bitter, cause him to become a complainer, cause him to not be involved. He kept his spirit right, and he put God first. And he said, I'm going to make the best that I can, even though I'm in this prison. So much so that the jailer comes to the prisoner. This doesn't happen. This doesn't happen. Jailers don't come to prisoners and say, hey, you're such a model person. You're so trustworthy in my prison. I want you to be in charge of the prison. And Joseph's spirit in the prison cell was so positive, so godly, that it was abnormal for prisoners in prison to be sad. Because in Genesis 40, he walks up to the butler and the baker, and he says, he notices they were sad. So apparently in Joseph's prison, being sad was the exception. Because Joseph took his prison and made it a place to do the work of God. It was the first time and the only time I've ever read where prisoners were happy and being sad in a prison was the exception. What's the point of all this, Brother Cox? It doesn't matter where you're at in life. I know you've got ambitions. I know there's places you want to go in God. But right now, you may be in a prison. You may not be where you want to be. Don't try to get ahead of God. Don't get mad and feel like, well, people aren't recognizing me. People aren't acknowledging me. Just say, you know what? I'm going to do everything I can to do the will of God in my current situation. I may be in a prison. I may not be to the place where people are bowing that God has called me to be, but I'm going to give God 100% if I'm just sweeping the floors of the prison. If I'm just being a doorkeeper in the house of the Lord, David said, I'd rather be that than to dwell in the tents of the wicked. If this is where I'm at, I know what my dreams say. I know what I want to do for God. But if this is the place I'm at, I'm going to do my best to make such an atmosphere that the prisoners are coming to me saying, hey, I've had a dream. Hey, would you pray? Hey, would you give me wisdom? So I want to encourage everybody today, don't get ahead of God. Don't let your ambitions get you ahead of God's timing. And don't let your ambitions get you into a place that your consecrations can't sustain you. If you're in a prison, if you're in Potiphar's house, you're on your way to Pharaoh's court. But if you're not there yet, you keep your spirit, your heart, and your mind and your attitude right, and keep yourself involved in the work of God. Let God use you in your current placement to bring harvest and revival and to do His will. And if you stick with that and you make the best of it where you're at, the old song says, when God unfolds the rose, He always gets it right. Meaning, while you're trying to get to where God called you to go, you just focus on doing His ways where you're at, and His will naturally unfold in your life. God bless you. Love you. Keep having revival in Buford.
If you've been blessed by these videos, please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe.
Thank you for watching Life Kings.